Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we're mid-renovation and we haven't had a TV, and I told myself when we do buy a TV, I want one that's really top of the line. So I watch sports and I play video games from time to time, and I really wanted something that was like, 4K, like high colour saturation, give me those deep contrast TVs with inky blacks and whatnot. And so when my wife floated the idea of getting a projector, I kind of thought, well, a projector feels like a compromise, really. When you have projectors, there's the obvious consideration where if you're watching in daytime and often there's bright sunlight sort of streaming through your window, what happens to the image quality? I've also never really been wowed by a projector. I've never seen one and thought, oh, this would actually suit my needs for doing things like watching sports, movies and playing games. That said, this Christmas, we have family round and, we just sort of arranged a quiz, and since we're mid-renovation, I just thought, it's probably a good idea just to sort of cast something onto the wall. We don't have a TV, let me just get a cheap projector off at Amazon. So I came across this thing here. It's the WiMiUS P62 projector, and it retails for just below £200, and it's been absolutely amazing. Actually, it was something I thought I'd just purchase and maybe give to a friend or family member, maybe send it back, but I was wrong. I was wrong about projectors, and I was wrong about this. I'm going to be keeping it. So, as I mentioned, we had family around for Christmas, and we popped this quiz on the wall. And this isn't like a projector type of screen or anything. It's just a white wall. It's even an Artexy type wall, so it's really bumpy. And I was just taken aback by just how great the picture quality was. Don't get me wrong, we had dimly lit lights in the corner. And, if you walk in front of the projector, of course, you'll see people's shadows cast across the screen. But that said, it was just so engaging, and it really had people engrossed in the quiz. We used Mentimeter as the platform, and it was just a lot of fun. And I guess it's no news that any image displayed from a projector can be quite big, but I think thinking about the size of TV I'd have to sort of pop onto my wall just to replicate anything of that scale. I mean, you're already paying into the thousands of pounds for something like the LG G series, for example. And I just thought, for 200 quid, this is a decent compromise. It weighs about 1.5 kilos. It's sizable enough that it can just about fit into your rucksack. And actually, they do provide a rucksack in the box as well. So it's really, really handy. So you don't even need to put it in your own bag. It comes with a remote control. It's got all the buttons you need at the top of the system here. So should you need to sort of change any settings, you can just sort of change them on the fly. Standard power port as well. One thing I will say is that the sound that comes from this device, this has inbuilt speakers, isn't the greatest. If you want to watch something and have a cinematic feel, you won't get it from these. It sounds almost like it's being played from your mobile phone. So it lacks really the depth proper speakers need. That said, it just about does it. If you're watching a YouTube video, for example, and don't need to be immersed, it's totally fine. The other consideration though is the fan noise, and I guess the fan noise from this is not loud, don't get me wrong. If you stand right next to it, you will hear an audible whir, but it's a low sound and not enough to really put you off. That said, if you're the sort of person who wants to play audio from this device itself, you'll probably hear the fan. So my advice to you would be to get some kind of Bluetooth speakers and pair it up to this. The process is super easy. It's just like pairing up to your phone. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. So speaking about inputs, the P62 has 2 USB-A ports, 2 HDMI ports, an AV port, an audio port, and then an infrared sensor on the back. On the front, you have an autofocus sort of emitter here. So essentially, when you set this up, it's really easy. It just scans the distance essentially between where this light's emitting from and its surface and focuses onto the wall, which is really cool. It takes about 30 seconds from switching it on to it being ready to operate, and you kind of hear it whir into life. That said, if you're not happy with the levels of focus, you can just go into the settings either with the buttons on top or with your remote and then manually focus it as well. Last but not least, you have the capacity to screw it into a tripod or mount it onto the ceiling. So it really makes it versatile. If you do mount it upside down, of course, within the settings, you're able to invert the image so the image is flipped and it comes the right way up. That said, I'm really impressed with a number of things about the projector, and I think the first thing is despite daylight conditions, or maybe you have a light switched on somewhere in your living room, it has the capacity to still produce bright, punchy-ish colours. Don't get me wrong, this is a 200 quid projector. It's nothing like the top of the line ones, but it's watchable. And I actually think if you connect to Bluetooth speakers, the sound is probably more important than the visual element at this price point, so you'll still be immersed. I know it sounds strange, but that's been my experience so far. I would also say that it being a 1080p projector, it does produce sharp images, but here's where I'll probably come to some of the downsides. From the distance I view from, and we're probably only 2.5 meters to 3 meters away from the wall, unfortunately 1080p isn't a high enough resolution for me to not notice some of the pixelation in some videos. And don't get me wrong, I've been watching things online and on YouTube, so you'll probably notice some of that artifacting anyway. But I think if you're going to project to such a large display, if pixel peeping really matters to you, probably go for like a 4K type projector, maybe go for something that costs a bit more. Another downside is not really a downside, because I'm really conflicted about this, is gaming on this projector. And I think it's... how should I put it? Basically, gaming is great. The experience is great, bar two things. Number one, you'll not replicate the vivid colours of a TV. Just know, even a TV from 5 years ago, you just won't get that same kind of punchiness. Though there's something to be said for having that sort of real estate to display your games on. It's really, really cool. That said, I would not play anything competitive on such a display, and I'd probably not play anything that requires a high frame rate. So when you're looking at playing like single player games on like your Nintendo Switch, your 30 frame per second sort of window is fine. But if I'm playing something like a Call of Duty and I'm really immersed on it, why did I even say it like that, a Call of Duty, and I'm really immersed in the game, I wouldn't opt for a projector. So casual gaming, yes. If you're semi-competitive or like to play online, this is probably not the use case for it, but you will find value in getting sort of this projector for films and getting it for movies and other sort of media content. That's fine. That said, the colours are okay at best, and if there's artifacting in the game, if you get that sort of staircase-like aliasing in games, so right now I'm plugging this into my Nintendo Switch and playing Tears of the Kingdom, you will notice some of those jaggies, but that's part of the game, and in fact that's part of the beauty of the game. But if you're playing like a hyper-realistic game and you don't like those effects, you will notice it on this projector, and furthermore you will notice it at a 1080p resolution, so just something to bear in mind. That said, it's a projector and the downsides of projectors are well known. So if you're like me and you've been thinking about getting a TV and you're not quite ready to pull the trigger, possibly consider a projector. Like, really be open to it. Like, purchase one, see what it looks like in your setup. You may save a lot of money. You may never end up getting that TV. Or, like myself, it may just enable you to sort of, hold back on that purchase decision until you're ready to pick the right TV. Maybe on a deal, maybe at a sale or whatnot. So if you're thinking about getting a TV but maybe you don't have the budget for it, or perhaps you're mid-renovation and just can't fork out on a TV right now, consider getting a cheap little projector. You even have some with short throws, so you don't necessarily need to sort of pitch it far back away from the wall. You can pitch it up right close to the wall and it just projects the image from a short distance away. Really, really handy. I'll leave a link to the projector in the video's description below. Please consider liking and subscribing, it helps the channel of course. Please note that the link is an affiliate link, so if you do go ahead and purchase, it does help me as well. That all said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.